We're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you everyone for joining tonight's call. So if you are new to this call, the days and times for this call are the third Tuesday of every month, and we start at 5 o'clock. So the next call will be December 20th. That will be the last call for the year. For those of you that don't know me, I am Jice. I am a co-owner of B2B Thrive, and we are a small business resource. Ultimately, we're here to help your business grow. What I do personally within the scope of B2B Thrive is I do productivity coaching for small businesses. So I have a focus on how to help your business become more productive, how to help you as a business owner make the best use of your time. That's kind of the purpose behind these calls and how they got started. Again, if you're new to the calls, I really started these calls based off of asking business owners, what are some of the areas that you struggle most in? And I got this long list. And so from that, I started creating some content and some material around how to help business owners overcome some of these common struggles or common issues. These are advanced calls, and so I want to make sure that I put that out there. I did receive some feedback from someone who said, you have so much information in one call. And I'm okay with that. Actually, that was something I was striving to do, because I really, really hate, and this is just a personal issue that I have. I really hate, getting onto something that's free and, the title sounds great and we really want it to be helpful for our business, but it's really kind of on that beginner or basic level. And so we come out and we've wasted an hour, and I say wasted lightly, but, we've wasted an hour of our time. And at the end of the day, we don't have any additional information that really helps us move our business forward in any meaningful way. And so I didn't want that to be this. I didn't want to spend an hour talking and then trying to sell you on a program or a service. I do have programs, I do have services. That is not the purpose of this call. I'll be more than happy to talk with anyone who is interested in working with me one-on-one or working with me within one of my groups. But that's not the purpose of this call. This call is really just to provide some value that comes from the needs of small business owners like ourselves. So again, this is an advanced call. I really try and dig a little deeper into a topic and give you some real information and not just gloss over it. And so if you are a new entrepreneur, I encourage you to stick with me. But also knowing that this is kind of geared towards people who are already heavily into their business and are really trying to take their business up a notch or take it up to the next level. So if you do have a topic that you would like me to cover, please let me know. You can always email me or inbox me, Facebook, Twitter, all of those avenues. I will check that and I will work your topic into my list. If you are able to, I would suggest that you take some notes. If you are driving, please do not take any notes, but there will be a replay. So this is a recorded call. Once we get to the end of the call, the end of the information that I have for you, I will open up the line and you can ask any questions that you may have. And then again, this call is being recorded. So I will take the playback and I will put it out for anyone who missed it or just wants to go through the information again. All right, today's call is when killing time is killing your business. And so we're going to touch on three main points. We're going to talk about calculating what you're worth. We're going to talk about what is killing your time and how much it's costing you. And then we're also going to touch on ways to kill those time killers. So I want to start with what is your time actually worth? Not what you charge per hour, not what you want your time to be worth. Like right now, today, what is your time actually worth? And to really get into that, we need to have a good understanding that not all uses of our time are equal. And so as a business owner who gets to set and determine how our time is spent and what our time is worth, we know that we have to get the most out of it, right? So I want to state, this is not mine. I totally stole this from someplace, but I really loved it. And so I don't even remember where I got it, but I've had it, I kept it for a while. It says, people who spend their time doing more profitable work make more money. People who spend their time investing in others build better relationships. People who spend their time creating a flexible career enjoy more freedom. People who spend their time working on high impact projects contribute more to society. So whether you want more wealth, more friendships, more freedom, or more impact, it all comes down to how you spend your time. And I really feel like that's the essence of what we're talking about here on this call, is having a better understanding or having a really good understanding of what it is that your goals actually are when you are going about your day, spending your 24 hours that each of us have. What are your goals? And are your daily activities reflecting that? And the reality is that you probably want some level of all of these things, and that's perfectly fine. But you can't have them all at once. And so at some point, what we have to do is learn how to manage the trade-offs on a daily basis. So I want you to think for just a moment about how you relate to your time. Not how you think you should relate to your time, but currently, what is your current mind state on how you relate to your time? Do you think of your time as money? Do you think of your time as money? Let me give you an example. Say you realize that King Soopers has an online program that allows you to get your groceries online. They do, it's called Home Shop, I believe. But the delivery will cost you $50. I don't think it's that much, but just stick with me. Or you can go to the store. So if you go into the store, you know that it's going to take you about an hour round trip. So that's getting to the store, getting your shopping done, getting through the line, getting home is going to take you an hour. Or you can go online and you can have King Soopers deliver your groceries for $50. What should you do? Should you save $50 and spend an hour? Or should you save an hour and spend $50? Now, there's no right or wrong answer to that. Really, the question boils down to, how do you think of your time? And if you think of your time in a monetary sense, do you think of your time as money? Because when we put it into plain terms, we can easily decide if something is worth our time, right? So like if I said, hey, would you work for an hour for $1? Most likely the answer would be no. But then if I asked, would you work for an hour for $1,000? Most likely the answer would be yes. And so we can understand in those kind of black and white terms that we should be working for more money, right? But what about the tasks that you spend your time on a daily basis? Or what about the different trade-offs that you decide to make based on money? Let me give you a few examples. Do you spend this week working with a client that will pay you $3,000 right now? Or do you spend this week working on a business idea that would generate $50,000 over the next year? Where's the trade-off there? Do you fly a nonstop flight and save 3 hours on your flight? Or do you get a flight with a layover, but you save $70? Do you pay a teenager $20 to mow your lawn so that you have an extra hour free? Or do you get outside and you mow it yourself? These are types of daily trade-offs that we make as business owners and as everyday people with our time in relation to our money. And so sometimes when we get into some of these deeper decisions, it's not always as black and white. We spend each day making these types of decisions. And every decision is an opportunity cost between something we could have done or money that we could have saved or money that we could have spent, right? So we have to begin to think about, how do we think about our time? So that's something I just want you to focus on as we go throughout this call. So I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can calculate your time. The first way that we're going to talk about is the realized income method. Realized income method. So that pretty much sounds like what it is. It is your actual realized income. How much time did you spend to make what you already earned? You can take, say, a 3-month time span. You can take a week time span. How much time did you spend working this week? How much money did you make this week? But when we think about working, we have to think about all of the work that we're doing. So if I am an attorney and I bill at $250 an hour, I can't just say that because I had 10 billable hours this week that I made $2,500. That's not fully the case, because I still had to commute to work or commute to my office. I still had to file paperwork or read briefings or make sure I was prepared for my meetings or have conference calls and so on and so forth. So if I made $2,500 this week, but I actually worked, 60 hours, I don't know what that equates to because I didn't do this problem, but let me see what that comes out to be. So if I work 60 hours, I actually only made $41.66 an hour, right? But if you ask me, I probably told you that I was worth $250 an hour. So again, the realized income method would be to look at how much time you spent making what you earned, all of that time, right? Divided by how much time by how much you've actually made. So there are a couple of ways to do this. If you don't know how much time you're spending working, I would suggest that you begin tracking this. There is, if you spend a lot of time online like myself, there is a program called Rescue Time. When I do the replay, I'll drop that link in for you. There's also a program called Toggl. There are others. Those are the two that I'm most familiar with. But there are other ways that you can also begin to track your time. And so there are apps that you can put on your phone if you work out in the field, different things like that. And so you can begin to track not only your time, but also the different types of activities that you're doing within that time. Now, if you are a business owner, which again, this is targeted to business owners, you don't have to be. So if you're not, hang in there with me. But if you are a business owner, I would recommend that you look at this from a year-long standpoint. And the reason is because typically speaking, as business owners, our income fluctuates on a month-to-month basis. So if you wanted to look at what you made this last month, that might not be indicative of what you made the previous month or what you will make next month. So if you really want to get a really good estimate of your time, look at what you made for the whole year and calculate approximately how much you worked within a year. If you don't know how much you work, you can start off with a number like 2,500, which basically breaks down to, I believe, like a 50-hour work week. A lot of business owners work more than that, but that kind of gives you a starting point to start working in an estimate. And then again, if you haven't begun to look at ways to track your time and figure out where you are actually spending your time, I would highly recommend that you do that. And again, in the replay, I will drop a couple of links to some of the resources that I'm familiar with. Okay, so that is the realized income method. So next is the market rate method. So this is another way to calculate your time. What you want to look at is what would the market rate of your time be if you were hired by another company? So in my business, I do all of our back-end administration. I'm going to say that would be something similar to being like an office manager. If I spend 20 hours a week doing office management work, what would I be getting paid if I were to go to another company and be hired on as an office manager there? So what you want to do to get your market rate method would be to break up what you do into a couple of different categories. And you want to you can look up on like salaries.com or whatever the case might be. You can look up how much is the average salary for that job if you were being hired at someone else's business. So you can do that math there. You can come up with a combination of what you would get paid based off of the amount of time that you spend in each of those tasks, right? Because if you're a business owner, you're probably going to wear many hats. So you might be a marketer and an accountant and a content writer and a business developer, right? You can be all those things. So spend some time breaking that up, and that can give you what you would be worth, say, on the open market or in the job market. So that's the second way to calculate how much your time is worth. The third way that we'll talk about tonight is called the cost-based method. So this is how much would you pay someone to do what you do? Again, taking all of those things into consideration, let's say if you spend time doing your bookkeeping, how much would you pay a bookkeeper to do your work, or to do your books rather? If you spent time writing content, how much would you pay a content writer to create the content for your business? So think about how much you would pay someone to do the work that you do. And again, divide that up by the time it takes you to do that, and that will give you your cost-based method. Now, the best way to get a really solid number for how much you're worth is to actually combine all three of these methods. It takes a little bit of time, but this is really going to help you get a good idea of how much you are currently worth or how much you desire to be worth per hour. So again, you want to take all three of these methods and you want to average them out. Okay. Now, once you have this number in your head, you might be disappointed. I have not yet met anyone who has taken the time to calculate what they are worth per hour as a business owner in particular and has not been disappointed by the number that they come up with. As I mentioned, the example of the attorney, you might tell an attorney might tell you I'm worth $250, and once they do the math and they find out they're only worth $41 an hour, that's a blow to their ego, right? But you can't begin to correct some of these problems without having a good starting point from which to work from. So now that you know, or now that you can go back and calculate how much you're worth per hour, now you have a starting point to determine how do you increase or how do you raise your worth per hour. So we're going to shift gears into what is killing your time and how much it's costing you. Because with these methods and having that pretty good idea of what you're worth per hour, it's not really about what you want it to be. I want you to think about where you are placing your time and how this new information can play into your decisions. So we talked about this example of going to the grocery store, right? Do you spend an hour going to a grocery store, or do you spend $50 to get your groceries delivered? Well, it depends on how much you're worth per hour. Let's say you're worth $75 an hour. Then I would say, in my professional opinion, that you should not go to the grocery store and spend an hour at the grocery store, because you'd be losing money that way. Your hour being productive is best spent making $75 than spending that $50 paying to have your groceries delivered. There's the trade-off there. So once you can assess how much it is that you're worth per hour, you can now begin to think about all those other decisions that come into time versus money. So now you can assess that plane ride. Is the 3 hours worth the $70? Is the $20 to mow the lawn worth that hour? So what if you're only worth $75 an hour, but you desire to be worth $150 an hour? How do you get past all the activities that are eating up your time and not increasing your income? So you must look at where you are spending your time and ask, what is the most effective use of your time considering your goals? And I want to stress, considering your goals. Don't be misguided by what others consider successful. Like, this is about where you place your time needs to coincide with your goals. When we talk about wasting or killing time, I want you to start thinking not as if it's only like emails and pointless meetings or social media comas that we can all get into. That's clearly a waste of time. That I think most of us know, and we struggle to find ways to overcome those, but we identify them as being a waste of time, right? But what about other ways that you're using your time that maybe you shouldn't be doing any longer because you've determined that your time is too expensive for that task? So, like, let's say, is it worth hiring a bookkeeper? Think about how much time you spend in your books every month. I hope you're spending some time in your books every month, unless you have hired a bookkeeper. But if you're a small business owner, I hope you're keeping your books. If you spend, say, 5 hours each month doing your books, you want to begin to look for ways to automate that, right? But which we'll talk about automation on another call. But for right now, what we're looking at is that task worth your time? So again, if you desire to be worth $150 an hour, would you pay a bookkeeper $150 an hour to do your books? If the answer is no, then you need to find a solution to that task for your business, because you've determined that you are worth $150 an hour. So you can no longer do your books because your books are not worth $150 an hour. I hope that's making sense. So when you're determining what your time killers are costing you, again, don't just think about the wasted time. Think about how much you're worth in relation to that time and how you can best leverage your time in order to be worth more. So let's quickly go through some typical time wasters for business owners and talk about the ways to kill them. I just mentioned one, bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is actually a huge time waster for the average business owner. So there's a couple things that you can do. You can automate your system, and you can also hire a bookkeeper. And you might even want to do a combination of the two. Now, customer service is actually a huge time waster. Now, if you were on with me last month, I talked about how important customer service is, or the customer experience to your business. And this does not negate that. The customer experience is incredibly important to your business, it's incredibly important to your brand and your reputation. However, the question is, would you pay what you are worth to someone to do your customer service? Right? And what does customer service usually boil down to? Taking a lot of calls or a lot of emails, right? So, what are some of the things that you can do to kill that time killer? You can hire an assistant. You can even hire a virtual assistant, which is oftentimes cheaper than hiring someone in person or hiring someone daily. You can even create systems to help with customer service issues, especially typical issues. You can do things like create an FAQ section. You can have videos that help your customers through some basic components of your products or services. So begin to think of some solutions that can help you automate your customer service and to begin coming away from answering emails all day, which is a huge time waster for the average business owner. Running errands. Running errands is huge. We've talked about the grocery store example, but we can think of a bunch of other examples, right? Making it to the post office, having to make a bank run, needing to pick up dry cleaning. All of these things waste time that we can probably determine we probably wouldn't pay someone what we feel like or what we desire to be worth per hour to do these errands. So what are some of the things you can do? You can, again, find an assistant. Assistants here can be very helpful, but oftentimes when we talk about hiring people, that becomes a scary subject, especially if you feel like money is an issue for you right now. It's not a problem if you begin to look at ways that maybe you can split those costs, find another business owner in your area, and hire one assistant who can run both of your errands. And that way you can split the cost of their time. Maybe you can delegate some of that out to a spouse, a friend who has nothing to do. I'm sure we all have one or two of those. Depending on the age of your children, maybe you can get your children to do some of that. So there's other ways that you can leverage that time, but definitely look for ways to avoid running errands if at all possible. Some of the things that we talked about, like having delivery services, are really helpful. And so you can look at, there's shipping costs involved, but we're looking at saving our time, because our time is worth more than that shipping cost. So running errands, huge time waster for business owners. Housekeeping. Housekeeping is huge. If you're, I hope this isn't sexist, but if you're a man, it might not be as big of a deal to you as it probably is for most of us ladies. I know for myself that housekeeping is a huge issue. I work from home, so oftentimes I have to force myself to not focus on dishes in the sink, because doing dishes right now is not the best use of my time, right? So is it worth getting a housekeeper or a personal assistant to help with some of the chores around the house? That might be an option for you. If you have children, that might be an option for you. If you have a conversation with your spouse, that might be an option for you. Sometimes you have families who work together in a business, and being able to make those trade-offs can help. But housekeeping is actually on several lists when it comes to huge time wasters for business owners, in particular those who work from home. So keep that in mind. All right. Social media and other alerts. So I think this is just a no-brainer. We know that social media is a huge distractor. The internet in and of itself is a distractor. Your email alerts, distractors. So the number one thing you can do here is just to silence them. You are not going to miss anything major. 9 times out of 10, I promise you, you will be okay. Sometimes this is a scary thing for business owners. Sometimes we have this urge to instantly respond to someone as soon as they've emailed us. Stop. Don't do it. Really, don't do it. I strongly urge you to one, use your do not disturb feature on your phone and your computer. And what you can do is begin to plan breaks to allow yourself social media time. If you have a business that requires you to use social media as part of your marketing or branding strategy, that's fine. There are ways to automate that to help you still engage, but not actually be on social media and have your time kind of eaten up into articles and Facebook arguments and Twitter wars and other things like that. So you can use certain programs like Hootsuite is one that will allow you to go on and promote out your social media in advance. Then you can go in and put everything on there, schedule it, and let it go out. And then, of course, if you need to spend time getting on to, reply and engage with your customers and things like that, that's fine, as long as you're doing it within a scope of time that makes sense for you and is the best use of your time. However, again, if you wouldn't pay someone what you feel you're worth to cover your social media, you probably should find someone who can help you with your social media. When it comes to email, you really need to select 1 or 2 times a day to answer emails. And sometimes this means retraining our clients. And sometimes that can be scary, but it's very necessary to allow for your clients to know that you won't always immediately answer their emails. 9 times out of 10, they're not absolutely urgent. If you have a close relationship, depending on the type of business that you have with your clients, it's a good possibility that they probably already have a phone number that they can reach you if it was a true emergency. So take some time that you have scheduled out to answer and respond to emails, and then turn off those notifications. Do not continue to respond to email throughout the day. That is a huge time waster. All right, the next one is poor delegation. I've seen this happen in business owners. I am so guilty of this myself at times because I'm a control freak and I hate turning over tasks to other people. But when you take the time to delegate, which is definitely a way to save time, when you take time to delegate, you have to take time on the front end to get a person properly trained. Because once you've delegated a task, it's really not an option to take the task back. That would be a poor use of your time. Having it done poorly is also not an option. So what you have to do is actually spend the time up front training your person on how to complete the task in the way that you want it done. Talk about desired outcomes, talk about time frames, go through the steps, step by step, go through that so that they have a good idea of what it is that you're expecting them to do, how they are expected to do it, and when it is expected to be done. When you take that time on the front end, you save massive amounts of time on the back end. All right, research. Now, research is important and it is necessary. Professional development is sometimes research. Those are definitely necessary. However, be diligent in using your network. If you need a plumber, don't spend your time looking up reviews on plumbers. Ask someone in your network for a recommendation. It will save you a ton of time. So use your network as a way to forego a lot of time doing extra research that's not necessary. Now, these last two I won't get into really deep because I think they're kind of self-explanatory, and usually the biggest issue here is cost. But again, we're beginning to see our time in a different light, so we begin to see cost in a different light. The last two are legal issues. Give them to an attorney. That's where legal issues belong. And IT issues. Your computer breaks down, your printer isn't working. If it's going to take you a while to try and Google how to fix your printer or YouTube it, it's probably best for you to just call an IT person. Have them come and fix your printer. So those are some major ways that business owners are wasting their time, and some ways that we can begin to overcome those time wasters. So I will close on this before I open up the lines for questions. When you begin calculating your time, and I assure you, if you calculate your time, you will probably be slightly disappointed at what you are currently worth per hour. And you can change that. However, I really want to take a moment to encourage you as business owners. We are already workaholics, and we could be tempted to work our way out of all of our free time, especially if you have this number on your mind, right? So I don't want you to take away from your free time or your family time or even just your self-care time. And so I encourage you to recognize the value in that free time as well, and be sure to plan that into your schedule. That is just as important as making sure that the time that you are spending working is productive and useful and valuable to the best of your ability. Is equally important that you spend time with family, spend time caring for yourself, and spend time giving yourself the opportunity just to breathe and relax. All right, so I'm going to open up the line now for any questions. If you have any questions, please go ahead and speak up. All right. Are there any questions from anyone? No? Was I that thorough?
No, you did really good.
Thank you.
Can I get a copy of the first part? I missed it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The first part, I came in about 10 minutes late, so I missed part of it. But what I did hear is that I got good notes.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And it will be available for replay. So if you missed any part of the call, I will put it out for replay, and you can definitely chime in on anything you missed or anything you wanted to hear twice.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anyone? Okay. No worries. So again, I thank everyone again for joining the call tonight. Again, the last call for the year is going to be December 20th. So please mark your calendars. We will be talking about how to move from the planning phase to the execution phase. I know that some of us as business owners are perpetually in that planning phase, right? And we want to plan, make sure everything is perfect. And we have not moved over into how we execute. So we will be talking about that December 20th. If you found this call helpful, please tell another business owner. If you are interested in working with me one-on-one, again, I do business productivity coaching, and you can always reach me at b2bthrive.com. I do only take a handful of clients. Once I'm full, but I will have a group program opening up in January. It's called my Rise and Grind program. It also has limited spaces. I really enjoy working closely with groups to make sure that people are getting their needs met and are not lost inside of large groups. But that will be kicking off in January. So again, if you're interested in knowing when enrollment opens, you can visit b2bthrive.com on our code page for more information. I totally thank everyone for joining me tonight. I hope that this information was helpful. Please share with someone. And again, the call will be available for replay in about another day or so. And I will go ahead and post that out as well. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time tonight to join me.